my goodness. The 1988 Winter Olympic City, Calgary, Alberta, in the heart of Canada. We're in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains at Canada Olympic Park, just outside the city. The venue for the bobsleigh movie, of course. And the one thing, the Jamaican bobsleigh team that made this perhaps the most famous Winter Games of all. We're here though for Wiesmann FIBT World Cup #2 in women's skeleton. We're ready for the second and deciding heat. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me Melissa Hollingsworth, and every athlete's nightmare. She woke up to find she was on the start line without her number vest on, Melissa.
Yes, and you're instantly disqualified if you do not have that bib on, but she got the bib, but not in time to cross that line to get a time.
We have a very tight battle for the medals here. Germany's Sophia Griebel currently lies in third place in the front of a very tight tussle. Great opening run from her, puts her in definite medal contention. Great Britain's Laura Dees is in second position. She is within shot of a chance to win. Last weekend's winner, Lizzie Yarnold, is back home. Laura Dees has stepped nicely into the void. But the girl who was beaten only by the Olympic champion in Lake Placid a week ago, Canada's Elizabeth Vache, in only her second ever World Cup race. First out of the start shed again, she leads going into the second and deciding heat.
So impressive, young athlete on the big stage, and she's coming in there with a strong force.
1600ths of a second cover the top two, and look at the battle for third place. Griebel, Herman, Flock, all in the battle. We get ready for our second and deciding heat here in Calgary in Canada. So under the maple leaf flag there is the ski jumping hill from the Winter Games. And of course, it wasn't just the Jamaican bobsledders, but Eddie the Eagle, who was one of the big names then, and that was where he made his name. Melissa Hollingsworth, there was so much attention on Canada then, and of course, you were part of the eye of the storm when it went to Vancouver as well. What does that feel like for a home athlete?
Well, you're so focused on your job, of your training, the sliding, that's all part of it. It was great energy going into it, and competing at a home Olympics, it'll be the greatest memory of my life.
Well, there you go. She's got the medal, she's got the coat and everything else. Everybody getting ready in the changing room. Women's heat's coming up, and the men's decider as well to follow that. Elizabeth Vache of Canada will be last to go here, trying to win her first ever race in World Cup. Sleds lying outside at Calgary, Alberta, Canada, ready for the second deciding heat of Run 2, Race 2 of the Wiesmann FIBT Women's Skeleton World Cup. Coach Mickey Grunberger holds the sled for his athlete. First on the track is Takako Umakai as we go 20 down to 1 to decide the medals here. Martin Haven and Canadian Olympic medalist Melissa Hollingsworth alongside me in the booth.
Now her first run, she was 6th ranked on the start. Just that young athlete has the athletic ability to push that sled, now needs to learn to drive.
She's 30 years old, Takako, but she is relatively new to sliding in the World Cup level, certainly. 5:53, just a fraction slower at the start.
The Japanese sliders spend quite a bit of time in Calgary. This is almost like a second home track for them. They will come here pre-season and train, compete, have mini races within the Canadian selection process.
The home track in Nagano doesn't get iced up until December time, so they spend the season, start off here, and then finish off in Japan.
Kreisel turn, 270 degrees that corner is, and you'll see a lot of athletes come and take that left-hand bump. She's fighting her sled a lot compared to that first heat.
She's a little faster, 58.7 compared to 59.0, so 0.3 of a second quicker on that heat. Off a slightly slower start, so that shows that as the day warms up, the track is getting just a fraction slicker.
You could tell that she was having some difficulties navigating her way down that extra speed. Coming out of corner 8, there's an expansion joint, which is a big bump for these athletes to slide over. And then it's sort of a guessing game of which way their sled will be pointing after they've gone over that jump. And you can see she went over to the right and then the left and skidding, slowing herself down.
Big smile from Takako Umakai, our race leader. And next up for the Netherlands is Joske Leconte. Just before we got underway, Melissa, you pointed out to me, of course, you've never called a women's race because you've always been in them before. So what do you learn from watching what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, it is very different for me to call a women's race. I've not analyzed the way that they slide like this. You have your coach's video, and we'll look at some heat highlights when you're at different races, but this is the first time I've talked about the women. The first time that I've been at the track in a very long time as well.
Joske was 100th in front of the current leader in the first heat. She's gone 100th up, back to dead level, back to 100th in front.
Skidding going into Kreisel. You can hear that scraping. That is her chin guard, her helmet dragging on the ice. When you hear that, you know that her face is buried in the ice.
0.04 of a second in front, 1600. She could lead by 0.2 at the line. Joske Leconte of the Netherlands is the leader. Wow, and that was a big run for her, 58.44. She went from parity before the Kreisel to 0.3 up. So she gained 0.6 over the Japanese girl because she gained 0.3 on her first run as well.
Coming out of corner 8, here's that expansion joint, hits the right side, redirection over to the left side. Her sled starts to skid. That's the closest thing that we have to braking. Skeleton sleds do not have brakes, but if you go sideways, it'll be like a hockey skate stop.
So Joske Leconte of the Netherlands is the race leader, and a very good second run from her. She was behind a tie for 16th place, just 400s in front of her. So it could be set for a lot of changes here.
And the track is here for Jackie Narracott.
Aussie slider Jacqueline Narracott with the battling kangaroo on the helmet, ready for her run here. The green and gold of Australia, the battling kangaroo on the helmet of Jacqueline Narracott from Queensland. In Australia, she should have some maroon on there as well, the state colour. 5.66 getaway for her.
We saw Rindy Laux, Canadian, who was helping her with her sled, probably coaching her here at Calgary all week.
Narracott was tied for 16th spot in the first heat with Eiko Nakayama of Japan, just 400s in front of current leader Joske Leconte, who had a really good second run. Joske found 0.6 of a second improvement, Melissa Hollingsworth, and that's evident because Narracott's still behind.
Yes, and she's having a smooth run so far, and not putting a lot of work into the sled. So Joske definitely used her experience and picked up the pace.
Speed is good, same as our Dutch leader, and that means she's not closing. In fact, she's in third. Second at the line. All right, she comes in between Joske Leconte and Takako Omukai. So Joske Leconte still in the leader's box. Jacqueline Narracott slips a spot.
Consistency is so important when it's a 2-heat race, even more important at World Championships or the Olympic Games over 4 heats. Here's Kreisel. She's high there, takes that tap. The big hit, you could see air between her runner and the ice. It's a lot of friction that she'll be taking when she takes that hit.
Big smile from Jacqueline Narracott. She lies in second place. Next up, the girl with whom she was tied in the first heat. The oldest slider in the field, men or women's field, Eiko Nakayama of Japan. From Nagano, she is 44 years old.
Eiko was saying this summer that she had planned on retiring, and And then she just couldn't. She's absolutely addicted to skeleton. She said she's very tired, though. I can't imagine. It is definitely a young lady's job.
She may have set herself another target because, of course, you're starting now in the first year of an Olympic cycle and you don't want to finish until you get to the end of it. So maybe not one more, maybe she's in for 4 more years. Only 400s up on Joska LeConte after the first heat. She's still in the red. She's 2/10 back, but closing a little.
Oh, and that was a really big move. She saw that she was coming out of corner 8, not where she wanted to, moved her sled out from underneath for big skids down that straightaway. The remainder of the track is now uphill. It'll be really difficult to find some time.
1:19 is good speed. That's the fastest we've seen at the bottom, but not enough to bring her into contention. 58.92. And one of the things of skeleton is that it's so hard to be consistent, and the other is that you get these close little margins and you almost always expect changes to happen. And she goes straight off the foam and right into the cameraman's legs.
Oh. Here's the problem. Corner 8, she sees she's coming out too early. She's trying to avoid that right wall. Too big of a steer, pulling up on her handles, redirects her to the left side, but not without putting her sled sideways, and essentially is breaking the ice.
She was a little early off that corner in heat 1, earlier in heat 2. And we'll track hold to make sure that she is okay, which she plainly is, as we get ready now with Anastasia Novikova of Russia. 8th fastest in the start, another electrifying Russian sprinter.
Karina Marr to the skeleton start. Finish time for Eka Nakayama was 58.92 and start time was 5.72.
Similar to her first run, a 5:52. First run was a 5:50.
The Russians clearly are planning to chase more fast starters in the Alexander Tretyakov mold and then teach them not to hit so much on the way down.
Absolutely. When you're recruiting for this sport, you want somebody who is very fast at the top and teach them how to drive. A specific body build would be ideal, the taller, the heavier ones. And again, you can hear her face dragging on the ice, not able to see that exit, and she kind of flops out of the corner.
A lot of speed there as well. She's 1200s back and she will drop further behind. Just though Joska LeConte's rise up the podium continues. She leads as Novikova drops to 2nd. So Anastasia Novikova, halfway down, she was just in a slender lead and drifted away to 2500s back, and it seemed to us that the bottom half of the track was where Joska LeConte really found the speed.
She was able to adapt to the faster conditions. Pushes her sled, gets on just before the crest. Coming through the Kreisel turn. And really letting things fly. You can see her sled, the nose was down, and then she hits the wall and it's changing direction. And that could be the sled setup as well. If it's very loose and touchy, you're going to see a little bit of movement. We'll have very big moves.
Karina Marr, the youngest woman in the field for Austria, blasts away from the start.
84. Unfortunately, wasn't quick enough.
Karina Marr of Austria on track as she chases leader Joska LeConte. There's a Hollingsworth. She's 18 years old, Karina Marr, and really finding her feet here in her first World Cup race in Calgary.
Well, she should take a liking to the Calgary track. It's very similar to her home track in Eagles, Austria. Not having the experience here, you'll see those types of mistakes from her, hitting twice in that straightaway.
Still a slender lead, 900s up, 113 kilometers an hour. That's quicker than the current leader. Now, after training that she didn't enjoy and a first heat she wasn't overjoyed with. I think we just saw the penny dropping on how to get the best out of Calgary, which is just to kind of ignore it and just let it slide.
Corner 14 is brutal on these sliders. The top of the track. Again, those expansion joints are causing some problems. The sliders will go over, the sled will jump, and then it's sort of a guessing game of which direction your runners will be pointed. Bumps that wall, pushes her into the other wall before Kreisel. You can see the ice spraying off of the bumper on her sled. Thankfully, she's small enough, she's inside those bumpers. It's not her shoulders that are taking the hits.
18-year-old Karina Meyer finally unseats Joska LeConte from the lead as Annie O'Shea of the USA gets ready for her second and deciding slide here. 27-year-old, originally from Port Jefferson Station, New York, with a Proto-Star sled.
And it's great to see Annie back in her athletic form. 4th ranked start in the first heat. What is she doing now? A 5:40, 400s faster than her first heat.
That's sort of what was missing from her armory last year. She is back.
Battling different injuries, having the surgeries. It's amazing to be able to see her come back and be this competitive on the start. Great way to start off the Olympic cycle.
Just 5'5", 130 pounds, one of the slightest athletes in the field. And that affects the way that the sled handles, Melissa.
Yes, your sled setup will definitely be very individual for each athlete.
Big lead for her from 4900s up. She's still 4/10 clear. 118 is not as quick, but it's enough to put her into the lead here in Calgary. A round of applause from Coach Tuffy Latour and a big smile from Annie O'Shea. You don't need to see the face, you can read it in her eyes. That was a good run from her. She's happy with that.
Look at her strength and her speed. Constant ground ice contact with the feet because she's pushing a sled.
There's the escape velocity, 58.7 kilometers an hour, some way clear of anybody else so far. Famed in the team for her evil laugh. World domination is her goal. Annie O'Shea, the race leader for the USA, as Russia's last slider, Yulia Kanakina, prepares at the top of the ice. Another young Russian here in Calgary. 19-year-old Russian Yulia Kanakina ready on the top of the track for her second slide here in Calgary, chasing leader Annie O'Shea of the USA. And she's got a slight lead now, 5:42, good start.
300s faster than her first start. Let's see how she'll be able to handle this Calgary track that seems to be faster, about 3 to 4/10 faster on average for each of the sliders so far.
Was 1800s in front of Annie O'Shea after the first heat, 500s of which remain, and she'll be in the red at the next clock.
Handled that expansion joint great, straight down the straightaway. Nice entrance into Kreisel. Even a nice exit out of Kreisel. No bump from her on that left-hand side.
74 miles an hour in, 70 miles an hour out of that corkscrew turn. The lead is just out of her reach. 700s behind, 900s at the line. That was very close, a little too close for Annie O'Shea's comfort maybe, but she overturns the Russian. Annie O'Shea stays in the leader's box as Yulia Kanakina slips to second place at the moment.
That very well could have come down to experience. And he slid on this track when it's been fast conditions like this. And that skid coming out, she didn't hit, but her sled went sideways. Sometimes it's just better to take that hit on the left side.
Huge smile from her. She's enjoying her trip to North American tracks. And next up, with a US slider in the lead, we have a US slider in the start box. Savannah Grable. 26-year-old Savannah from Denver, Pennsylvania. grad student who works during the summer as a waitress in Lake Placid. If you listen carefully, you can hear her singing to herself on the block. Different song for every track she has.
Kina was 58.42 and start time of 5:42. Our leader is still.
She was 500s faster on this start
She had a start time of 5:62.
than her first start. And what's so impressive is that she was able to drive her way into 11th place with a 15th ranked start in the first heat.
She was 2800s in front of Annie O'Shea from the first heat, and she's already behind.
She seems to be going early, too early into all these corners, and it pushes her away, so it's cutting ice.
Third place, she's gone into the lead now though.
Big hit before Kreisel. You could see the snow fly off the ice wall.
Big speed as well, 1.5 kilometers quicker than Annie O'Shea.
Oh, and she's, again, having problems in this lower labyrinth, but she's still in the green.
Speed's gone away, 116.6, it's close at the line, 1300s. USA 1 and 2 with 10 to go here in Calgary as Savannah Grable takes the lead from Annie O'Shea. Well, both US girls have things that they will want to tidy up before the next time they come to Calgary.
See, there's that hit before Kreisel. Big direction change pushes her down. Nowhere to go except for back up. You can get lost in that corner, 270 degrees. Big hit. Here's the lower labyrinth. She drops out of that corner. Her sled almost jumps to the other side of the track. You can actually see her lines trailing her, how much she's cutting the ice.
There's your leader, 10 down, 10 to go. Savannah Grable, Annie O'Shea, 1-2 for the USA here in Calgary. Savannah Grable and Annie O'Shea, 1-2 with 10 to go. How far up the order will the Americans climb? Young fan there out trackside. I think there's a couple younger than her as well in the family, if they're the same ones we saw earlier. So 10 sleds still to go. And the chance, maybe we shouldn't even mention it yet, of a Canadian flag on the top step of the podium. Melissa, that's a big moment. What did your first World Cup win feel like?
It was amazing, although it was 10 years into my World Cup career when I had my very first win here at Calgary. So for Elizabeth, that possibility, that's amazing. Her first year on World Cup to have her win, but it's special that it could be at home.
If she manages it here, it will be a big party in the house tonight, no question. And we will be tearing into the cookies as soon as we get a breath here that her mum has left us. Before we get to her, we've got the rest of the Canadian team to work through. We've got 3 German sleds in the top half dozen as well, top 7 in fact, and the medals yet to be decided. Last year's women's race won by the Olympic champion, as she is now, Lizzie Yandel of Great Britain. Yelena Nikitina, the start record holder from Russia, was in the silver medal position. Michelle Steele of Australia was in the bronze. So whatever else happens, we'll have 3 new faces on the podium this year compared to last year's women's race, because none of those 3 are racing here today. As the fans out watching close to the track, Charlie Booker there in the red and yellow hat, the FIBT photographer, trackside as ever. Welcome back to the winter wonderland that is the Canada Olympic Park, Calgary, Alberta. In the shadow of the ski jump tower is the 1988 winter ice sliding track. Cool running so far for Team USA. Savannah Grable, our leader, from teammate Annie O'Shea with 10 to go. And a Can-Am rival, Maddie Charney, 10th place for Canada after Heat 1. She blasts off looking for a big finish here at home.
And a 5:59. That's 400s faster than her first heat. This is her home track. She won the Canadian Championships here earlier this season, which earned her a spot on the World Cup Tour. Very first time for Madison. top 10 right now and on the World Cup at home. It's a great showing. See her clean up her run and potentially even move further up in the standings.
Easing away from Savannah Grable. She was only 500s in front of her in the first heat. She's already nearly 2/10 clear. Now she's relaxing into it. The first heat nerves have gone.
Yes, she looks so much more relaxed coming down that straightaway. That expansion joint didn't give her any troubles. She is at home right now.
2200s up. What can she find in the last few corners? Heading up to the line. Speed is good. Could be 3/10 clear. 3200s, a 58.03. That is within 100th of half a second quicker. How much of that is track? How much of that is nerves?
I think it's a little bit of both. She looks so much more relaxed and calm and confident on this second heat, and it definitely translated to her downtime. And so far, coming down the straight, look at her. She's relaxed. You see her body moving. She's not fighting. That sled is drifting to the left, but she's trusting that it's going to come back, and that gave her her fastest speed, 121.7. She's the fastest so far.
Big smile from Maddie Charney. Dog Molly is going to get a good walk tonight, I think. So she has the lead as Marina Giardoni of Switzerland comes to the block. Second fastest starting woman in this field. And she is in 9th place. Former bobsled brakewoman.
So powerful. Look at how strong she is, those legs, and a 5:28. That is amazing. That's the fastest start that we've seen.
Yes.
And that's what her coach said. She's in the best shape of her life. She is potentially breaking records elsewhere on tour, just in training. So this is exciting for Marina, leading the Swiss program.
5:28 is an epic getaway, really sets the bar high.
Oh, and she's too early into corner 7. That pushed her away. That may affect her speed here in the straightaway.
She was half a second up on Maddie Charney. 3/10 in hand, 119.5, still. In fact, Madison Charney was quicker there. She's lost more speed in the Chrysler, 69.6 miles an hour on the exit. We could come down to 1/10 of a second. 2100s up at the split, but losing ground to the Canadian, who's going to be in front by 1100s. It is Giardoni.
The exact same downtime as Madison. So it was that first heat that made the difference.
And you saw Marina Giardoni taking the lead, and Maddie Charney's dog Molly was down there on the podium.
Look at that power. She's so strong pushing the sled. All movement is forward. But you can see she was struggling steering-wise with her sled all the way down. Really, she's a strong girl, and sometimes it's hard to transfer that strength from the start to being smooth and relaxed on your sled steering.
So there is your current leader. The red and white crosses of Switzerland, the muskrat on the back, and the starry skies on the top. Next up for Great Britain, Rose McGrandle. McGrandle 8th place after the first of our 2 heats. Great Britain's Rose McGrandle on the ice, 8th place after heat 1, chasing Marina Giardoni of Switzerland, whose electrifying getaway has seen her take the lead from Canada's Madison Charney. Martin Haven, and alongside me, Canada's Olympic medal winner Melissa Hollingsworth. What about this run then? Can Rose find what she needs?
Well, she just improved by 2/10 at the start. She just pushed a 5:35. In the first heat, she was a 5:54. So I definitely expect that she will be faster at the bottom.
Very much more like the start we expect to see from Rose, and she's already back into the lead, 1400s. And this is where Giardoni was hemorrhaging time, hitting everything on the way down. Rose needs to keep it clean.
She's letting that sled fly. You can see it's whipping her up into the corners and spitting her out.
Great speed off the Chrysler, and at the bottom, she takes the lead by 4/10 of a second from Marina Giardoni. So somewhere an errant training run crept into heat 1 for Rose McGrandle. That was much more like the race day performance she'd have wanted, but even so, she's shaking her head.
And that is the fastest down time that we've seen today from the women, 57.63. There she is coming out of Kreisel, taking that bump, but look at that speed, a kilometer and a half faster than the Russian.
That was what we were expecting from Rose for both heats. There, the smile is back. Nice job from Rose McGrandle. Former world champion. Next up, Anja Huber-Selbach. Got married during the summer. Anja, 31 years old now. And the days when she was the fastest starter in the field are gone. She now has to drive better than anyone else to stay in contention.
A very specific routine that Anja has with her breathing prior to putting her helmet on, everything preparing her for that sprint to the transition of being relaxed in her sled. 500ths difference, 5:45.
So she's behind Rose McGrandle already. Rose started 5:35, so Anja's 500ths of a second first heat lead has already evaporated. The total time for both trips down the track added together, least elapsed time is the winner.
Anja has won on this track before. She knows it very well. She has loads of experience and confidence. So hopefully it will play out for her today.
500s behind at the start. 12, 15, 2600s behind. She needs some magic now. Full kilometre an hour slower than the current leader.
Fighting it, hits that wall before corner 14.
58.03 slide. And that is some 0.4 of a second slower on that run alone than Rose McGrandle. I'm starting to wonder whether Anja is going to make it to 2018. I wonder how long she's going to go not been able to win races.
Well, she looks so good in the top portion of the track, and now she gets fighting the G-force, and she's trying to make things happen, and she sticks longer on the corners than what she needs to, and ends up going late into the next corner, and that's where her speed went.
Smile is still there, but the mental battle, you can see her fighting it. More cheers at the top for Lynette Prediger. Family and friends there making the noise along with her teammates for Canada.
Dr. Lynette Prediger, she is in and a misstep loading on her sled. She was starfish dragging behind it. 5:73, that's gonna hurt her velocity.
She works in an emergency room in downtown hospital. An ex-volleyballer has visited 50 countries. That's quite some air miles she's been racking up in her life. 4,500s back. Melissa, this is a drag race. If you start slow, it's very hard to bring that speed back.
It is. Lynette, being a doctor, obviously she's very, very cerebral, very smart, and she actually can execute all of these precise lines and loves the adrenaline. So that's how she's been able to be competitive despite her push times. Her and her husband is also a doctor and engineer, and they both slide and they talk about it all the time, and that's how they improve.
Another one who's way too smart to be doing what she does, and look how she brought it back from 4,500 to 6, and the speeds were racking up the whole time. 122 into the Kreisel, 117 out of it, that's 73 miles an hour, and down at the finish corner, she was doing 76 miles an hour and change, 122.7. Stunning speed. That miss at the start is what cost her.
Yes, just ran a step too far. She just wasn't missed. That's what happened. She grabbed her saddle.
Well, spikes slipped as well.
Yeah, and her hand slipped off the saddle.
Yeah, Rose, that's her reaction to watching the start and how close it was at the finish. That's a tough break for Lynette. Reflecting the whole of the start tower and the area in her helmet is Janine Flock of Austria. Her teammate Karina Meyer, 18 years old, the youngest in the field. Remember when Janine was the youngest in the field? It's only about 3 or 4 years ago. She's 25 years old.
Start time of 5.7.
She has an improvement. She was a 5:48 first heat, so 600ths better.
Janine is getting stronger with every season. Her form is impeccable.
Really clicking with her Bromley sled as well.
She needs to use this year. This is World Championships, Winterberg in Germany, February into March. Next year's Eagles Austria, her home track, and that will be the time she will want to shine.
And she looks so good on her sled. She's barely moving. She's relaxed and calm. Small little steers are having a huge impact with her speed.
Really good speed too. 2/10 up still on Rose McGrandle. And she is pulling away. 1:22. It's a done deal. She leads at the line by 3/10 for Austria. Big thumbs up being held into the track there. That's a really nice run from Janine Flock. She was in 5th place after the first heat, and that is her pitch for a medal. And do you know what? She won't be far away if she's not in the top 3.
Look at how composed she is, coming out of corner 8, relaxed. The sled was about to move, but she did the experienced steer, just dropping that toe behind herself, so she didn't make it any worse. Perfect line in Kreisel, cool, calm, and collected.
Well, like Calgary, her home track Eagles teaches you religiously aero discipline. Keep your form, get out of the wind. She's got a long, rangy figure as well, and that helps with the aero. It is Janine Flock that leads as we get into the serious business of winning medals here in Calgary. Tina Hermann of Germany on track, 4th after heat 1, chasing Janine Flock of Austria, who set a blinding second run heat as she makes a bid for the medals. 4 sleds in the race, Hermann the first of them, all looking to stay on the podium.
I'm so impressed with how she stepped up to lead this German team. It's such a deep, talented squad of sliders and athletes for her first time on the World Cup.
A 10th in front of Janine Flock after the first heat, and the margin now 0.05 of a second. It's sort of stabilized. And her speed is right on a par with Janine Flock's, almost exactly identical. This could come down to what she had in the first heat.
A slight bump before 14.
Little slower, but enough. 0.04 of a second. 57.64. She too is aiming for the medals. She has the lead. And again, her first slide, a 58-second flat. That's a 57.64, 0.4 of a second nearly of an improvement. She's liking that.
Of course, coming out of Kreisel, absorbs that hit on the wall, sets her up perfectly for the next corner.
Yeah.
Tina Hermann of Germany leads with 3 sleds to go here. Second Wiesmann FIBT skeleton race of the season, and hey, recognize the livery? Yup, it's her teammate Sophia Griebel. And Griebel coming off a 10th fastest start to go 3rd. Just 0.04 off Laura Dees in 2nd place. This is the big battle for the medals.
Start, finish time for Tina Hermann was 57.64.
Stepping it up, 5:48 compared to the 5:51 first start. But as the start area is a little quicker, the track is quicker, but that means you've got to react immediately to what your sled is telling you and drive it differently.
Exactly, and perhaps if the ice is reacting differently, maybe the runners aren't the right choice. If it is getting a little bit cooler out there, so it's getting harder, and so there's a big move on your sled, you could put yourself in a position to skid.
400s up at the start, down to 100. Now she's 0.02 behind, 700s adrift. This could go either way. Germany will end up with a medal, but will it be Tina Hermann or Sophia Griebel, or both of them? Either of them, it'll be a first ever World Cup medal. 121.2, not quite enough to hold on. 400s between them, and she is tied with Janine Flock in second place. So, so Sophia Griebel slips. Tina Hermann is our race leader with 2 to go. Not beyond the bounds of possibility that Griebel will still take a top 3 finish, though. Could be throwing out medals like confetti here.
And have a look at that expansion joint. Her body came up off the sled. Only 7th ranked coming down that straightaway.
2 sleds to go. Germany won 2. And hasn't quite learned to control her excitement yet, Tina Hermann. Winning is winning, whether it's your teammate or not, but you kind of want them to do well too. Next up then, the bright smile of Laura Dees, 2nd place after the first heat, and again heading into new territory for her. 26-year-old from Wrexham in Clwyd. So let's get some cheering going back home in Wales, and where she lives now, Melksham in Wiltshire, just outside Bath.
Having the fastest start in Heat 1, what is she going to do here?
Here we go, the
5:27, she goes quicker yet. Wow, that is epic starting from Laura.
So impressive. And looking very calm and relaxed.
Former eventer who had never trained in a gym in her life before she was co-opted into the skeleton program. And look at this, nearly 4 tenths up. Can she hold this advantage? Because if she does, she'll be challenging Canada's Elizabeth Vache for the gold medal.
And having a really tough time holding her head up. I don't think that's just her chin guard dragging. It might be her forehead.
1:13.2 is good speed. 1300s. 2 corners to go. Can she hang on to the lead? 1:20.4, it's going to be very close at the line. And she's 200s in front of Tina Hermann. Both girls guaranteed their first ever World Cup medals. And 1 to go.
That is one of the most amazing feelings, knowing that you've trained so hard and now you're realizing your goal.
And what a message of intent this start, these pair of starts are from Laura Dees.
Very, very talented athlete. She comes blind out of corner 8 though. She's not looking up, she can't see. She doesn't even know she's gonna hit that wall. You can see that was a really big surprise with her head bopping up like that.
She thought the line was good, rattled the wall, but there's your leader, Laura Dees from Great Britain. And now, big day for Elizabeth Vache. First on the ice last week, silver, beaten only by the Olympic champion. First on the ice this week, the Olympic champion is watching back home in Great Britain. 5-3-0, again leaving nothing on the table. That is a great start from Elizabeth Vache of Canada.
Wow, 800ths improvement from the first heat. And she looks good. She's calm and relaxed in that upper portion of the track on her Bromley sled. Richard Bromley has been hired to coach her, as long as Charles, another Canadian slider, helping her continue this Canadian legacy.
Her mum and dad are here, her boyfriend's here, her brother's here, the family, the friends.
Bit of a bump there, but that happened in the first heat as well. She's got a big lead. As long as she can relax and stick to the game plan, should be seeing her on top of the podium.
3 tenths is the advantage. It is growing. She is headed to gold for the first time in her life. Silver last year, gold this year. Last week rather, gold this week. Her first 2 World Cup races have seen her finish on the podium, and she wins her first race at home in Calgary. Whatever efforts her mum and family have put into getting to this race, getting her to this race, have just been rewarded.
Absolutely. All funding had been pulled from the Canadian program, so they took it upon themselves that this is our dream, our passion. Find the help out there, the right sponsors, the right coaches, and the result is a gold medal.
Look at her, she can barely believe it. Lizzie, enjoy the moment. What a slide, what a pair of slides from Elizabeth Vache. The new star is rising Not in the east, in the west. Only the Olympic champion could beat her in Lake Placid last week. And she sent the entire field a message that the new breed is going to represent the Maple Leaf of Canada with just as much pride, determination and success as my co-commentator here, Melissa Hollingsworth, has done for 19 years.
So impressed with her start, how much she's improved. She's so young. She's been working with Rob Gray here in Canada to improve on that start, understanding that that's the key to success.
She led by 1400ths after the first heat. She opened up the advantage to 0.3 of a second. And there are first medals too for Laura Dees of Great Britain and Tina Hermann of Germany, who just edged out her teammate Sophia Griebel. Janine Flock tied with her for fourth, and Rose McGrandle, a great second run to blast a sixth position finish for her. Lynette Prediger and Madison Charney in the top 10 too for Canada. A big day for Canadian skeleton already here in Calgary. Well, all the writing was on the wall, but you can never count on anything in this sport, Melissa Hollingsworth. 2 heats must count, and it's so easy for anticipation to get in the way of performance. But I don't know what kind of cool area she goes to. Elizabeth Vache handled that with style.
Well, she may be a rookie on the World Cup, but she has been sliding for 6 years in Canada, North America, going over to Europe for EC or training over there. So, and having the best trainers, the best facility here at the Winsport facility with the weights and the track and everything. So she's been around a very elite group and has seen people win, and she liked the looks of it. So she's going to go on and win herself.
Yes, she has. You're absolutely right. I mean, the facilities here with the ice house and the track, you know, on the doorstep are second to none. And the support she's clearly got from family and friends. And I think that's Lynette's mum and dad, actually, or relatives, certainly, of Lynette Prediger, who are going down the hill. And as you're right, you know, an absolutely elite group of athletes with Olympic medalists, you know, at every turn. So it's been a great growing phase for her, and now she really has burst onto the World Cup scene. But it is different, you know, you come and race here in a Canadian race, or you race in Europe in ICC even, the second tier of sliding. There's no TV, there's none of that, there's no razzmatazz, it's just you and the wind and the track. And it is a different kind of pressure cooker up at the top there with a camera in your nose and all the lights and all the noise. It does have an effect.
It does, but that's where you have to have that mental toughness that you can learn how to be focused and focus on the sliding.
The Maple Leaf of Canada flies over Canada Olympic Park, and on the top step of the podium is a Canadian after the second race of the Wiesmann FIBT Women's Skeleton World Cup. Elizabeth Vache, silver medalist last week, gold medalist today, is our new World Cup leader, with the woman who won last weekend back home in the UK. Lizzie Arnold has lost that points lead, and it'll be a season-long battle now between the pair of them. The flowers being awarded to Tina Hermann, her first World Cup podium, to Laura Dees on the left-hand side, who is in second place, her first World Cup podium, and our first-time winner, Elizabeth Vache. John Morgan is down there. Let's take a look at the winning run. Well, Melissa Hollingsworth with the lead in the first heat. Last week she went out, Lizzie Arnold led, Lizzie Arnold won. This week, Lizzie Vache knew it was all hers to do.
Well, and the goal starting out this season, obviously making the World Cup team and then achieving that top 6. That was the goal. Just come out, get some experience, but with this new Bromley sled and the starts that she has and the little experience that she does have competing has translated into now being the new World Cup leader.
Well, so much for hoped-for top 6s. The game has changed, the world has changed for Elizabeth Vache. John Morgan is down with our top 3.
10 minutes till we send the forerunners, 10 minutes to forerunners, and 15 minutes to the start of heat number 2 for the men's race.
Canada's Elizabeth Vache, Lourdes of Great Britain, and Tina Hermann of Germany. A brand new podium, 2 first-time podium finishes with a first-time winner. And Melissa Hollingsworth, you remember that feeling. What does it do? How does it change your life? She's got the whole of the Christmas break to think about it.
It's going to make her hungrier when she goes over to Europe, and she has the track record in Winterberg, where World Championships are later this season, so that's what she's going to be thinking about.
Goodness me, what a season she's already having. So that's it for race 2 of the Wiesmann FIBT Skeleton Women's World Cup. Elizabeth Vache, our second different winner of the season. She's our new World Cup leader. She has claimed the first race win in World Cup of her career. Until the next time, from Melissa Hollingsworth and me, it's goodbye.